Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris21 here, and back again here at my locals, hanging out, and of course, back again to bring you guys another Meta Talk episode. So of course, with the Beat Set 13 finally out in English, definitely got a long list of decks I gotta do, but of course, gotta kick things off in celebration of my good buddy Warlycan36 finally making his return here.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back.
And of course, seeing that we are doing Pirates, for this
motherfucker.
I thought it would be good to invite Warlycan, you know, as a special guest for this video. So, Warlycan, I know, of course, you have been playing around with this deck prior to release of Set 13. You've been doing some experimentations.
Yep.
And I know you've been playing against other different decks and such. What are your first impressions of Grand Blue compared to before and compared to now in comparison to the meta?
Compared to before, at least before Set 13 came out, when we were focusing on just having Set 6, Set 2, and a couple other random promo cards, it definitely got a lot faster, to say the least. I mean, and that was the one thing I felt that Grand Blue was lacking, was the fact that there wasn't that much of a draw engine, there wasn't that much of a mill engine. We really were just relying on just overall power. The problem though is that with the power, that it just didn't hit. Like, the best thing we had was what, like Dragon Spirit with Cocytus at a limit break, so I made 26, which was, you know, okay. But now that we have, like, you know, our own break ride, our own extra draw trigger,
some good power plays.
Exactly. Now I can make extra, like, actual power plays I really wanted to do before. And now that I have a lot more cards, actually allow me to just go into the drop zone faster, allow me to do a lot more draw. Like I said, it just got a lot faster.
A lot quicker setup. So,
yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
We're all confused here.
Yeah.
So Warlycan definitely had some great impressions for the deck and such. So, as always, with every episode of Meta Talk, we're going to be giving our own personal analysis and ratings on 3 categories, as always, for what we feel makes competitive decks. One is pressure, consistency, and advantage. So, to start things off, let's get started. So, for the first rating that we have, or the first category, pressure, how well does this deck pressure your opponent? So,
it pressures in a different way. It's not really made to pressure in the fact of, you know, effects activating like Pale Moon would with Midnight Bunny or Silent Tom with the restriction of guarding. It's really made as pressure for power, which is a lot different compared to doing it with another kind of, you know, compared to other ones.
Do explain.
Exactly. For example, the Break Ride. Night Mist, when you Break Ride over it, you know, plus 10k, revive 2 Grand Blues, give them plus 5k. The power boost in those cases would actually make it so that it's incredibly hard. If you do, for example, you can revive Ruin Shade, Sea Strolling Banshee, if you had it in your drop zone because I was reverse.
For Mario Man.
Yeah. For example, I just did this earlier today, where I broke road into Night Mist, and I called 2 Grand Blues, and I did Banshee and Romario. So Banshee allowed me Soul Lash and Draw, so I got more back. I basically got back the Night Mist I broke road into earlier. And when I attack with this is going to be 36k, because the fact that, you know, this is going to be, you know, 4 Grand Blues, so plus 2, plus 10, plus 5. So hitting for 36 makes it so that it's either perfect guard, no guard, or you're losing your hand.
Pretty much.
Especially in a late game scenario when they're only at 4 or 5 damage, and I'm playing, you know, anywhere between 6 to 8 critical triggers they may not know of. Aside from that, you know, for this, for example, I'm getting plus 5 also, so this is going to be hitting hard. A lot of this can be able to hit hard and hit fast, which is really good.
Yeah, different ways to distribute power. My personal opinion for what I've been experiencing, I think really to rate a deck on how well it pressures, well, you have to be sitting on the other side of it to really feel it.
Yeah.
Night Mist is definitely a very powerful card, really good to call out 2 units and giving the plus 5. But outside of that, there really isn't any like on-hit abilities to really look out for.
Yeah, exactly.
And at least with Grand Blue, there's really nothing to really worry about necessarily mid-game as opposed to later in the game. So I think the pressure really does come down with this deck with one thing, making sure it gets its break ride, but with the power boost it can give to the field, it can definitely make some late game pushes. There can be maybe some slight inconsistencies as to how well it can do it, but overall, I mean, no one likes to deal with power columns.
Exactly.
So good.
And like you said earlier, there isn't really that much of a non-hit, so I can't really rate pressure that high as much as I really like to, because you know, that'd be just
I don't think this deck is designed for that type of style of play, but nonetheless, it can make some pushes. But
it's made for power over pressure. So I mean, if we had to rate it between like a 1 to 5, 5 being best, 1 being worst, I really had to put it around like the 2.5 range as far as pressure goes.
2.5.
2.5, because, like I said, power's nice, but there's not that many consequence cards. Like, you know, if I was playing Thanatos, which is its own different kind of build, honestly, that's one thing. great, but this is more of a power build, so we can't really just focus on more effects. It's more just, you know, ramming the face in.
Right. And I think overall, I'll give this deck a 3 out of 5. It can pressure late in the game situationally when it can, but for the most part, there's not too many things your opponent's worrying about, but that's not really the main design of the deck. But we're going to get more into that with later. So Warlycan gives it a 2.5, I give it a 3. Now next is advantage. How well does this deck create advantage for itself? And I think that Warlycan, I know you're going to go take off on this one, and I think this is really where the deck can really shine, especially for how much it's improved. So go ahead with the plays.
Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of a setup first before we actually go on to this. So obviously we're going to need 2 Banshees and a Samurai Spirit in the drop zone. So let's just say all 3 of these are in the drop zone right now.
4 damage.
And yeah, we're already at 4 damage, which
let's pretend.
Counter blasting. Yeah, we're going to have pretend.
Use your imagination.
Yeah. So we're going to Break Ride Night Mist over Night Mist. Night Mist's ability, we get to, revive 2. 2 Banshees allow you to Soul Blast 2, draw 2. So you're already getting 2 cards from that matter. And you're already gaining technically a +1.
And you get a temporary 2 free cards.
And they're 11k boosters in this case. Now, of course, you can always just hold on to one of them. For example, what I usually did was, I can counterblast, like if I had a Samurai Spirit, counterblast 1, retire 1 Banshee for Samurai Spirit. Now, I do lose the power boost, but in the same case, I keep a booster. So that allows me to keep an advantage. It allows me to actually put the Banshee back in the drop zone where it belongs, where it should belong. And at the end phase, this will go away anyway, which is fine. Protect next turn, riding Cocytus Reverse. Cocytus Reverse, bring back 2 Banshees, and this deck is for Rusty's Banshees, so I'll put in the soul to draw a card. So no matter what, there's always going to be a constant amount of soul for you to actually use with Sea Strolling Banshee.
It's really good.
So these will be able to come back, and if you got another Samurai in the drop zone, Counterblast, retire, resurrect, and they can use Cocytus' Limit Break, lock, and mill 3 to bring back the Banshee, Soul Blast again to draw a card. So you just drew 3 cards in one turn just from using the 2 Banshees in the Break Ride. So there have been times where for Grand Blue, and I'm not even joking when I say this, where I have 12, 13, 14 cards in hand during the time of doing this Break Ride. So by the time the opponent's turn comes in, they can try to attack all they want, but I'm going to have a hand just like OTT.
I have a Navy defending my hand.
Exactly.
A dead Navy.
I have an entire crew hanging out, man.
Yeah, man.
So I mean, like, as far as advantage goes, because of the Break Ride, and because of this especially, it's gaining a lot more power. I have to definitely give it, because back then I would only give it maybe like a 2 at the very best.
That's what I was thinking.
But now that I have Banshee and I have Night Mist, it allows me to get all this power and a lot more speed. I definitely have to up it up to a 4, maybe in a 4.5 because of that.
I can agree with that. I mean, because Cocytus Reverse, while he's not an amazing, fantastic card, he works really well with Night Mist because just like you said, you get 2 units out temporarily, but Cocytus allows you to lock 1, and you can call another one, so you get to keep 1 booster, and you can retire this for Samurai Spirit if you need to keep some cards. So there's definitely not a lot of plus plays that this deck brings. So,
but if you know how to run it right, you actually could keep the minuses that you're going to have anyway.
Right. So there's different ways to mitigate any type of minuses you may receive. So I think overall, when it comes to advantage, it's definitely a huge improvement to this deck compared to before, and this definitely has some pretty good plays as well, as Warlycan explained. Kind of took everything I was gonna say. So, but whatever. He's the Grand Blue pirate man, captain person, whatever. I don't know.
Captain of the Grand Blue.
Okay, sure. I think that sums it up better. Yeah. But yeah, I think overall, I will give this deck a 4 out of 5 for advantage. Warlycan, what do you get? What do you probably give it?
I gotta give it a 4.5, honestly, just because I'm being a Grand Blue guy.
I mean, hey, I rated pressure higher than you, so all right. Now, last but not least, which is really the game-breaking category for all decks, and that is consistency. How consistent is this deck? Well, Warlycan, I think for what I've seen, what I always say for consistency for a deck is, one, a deck is good for consistency if it doesn't rely too much on having certain cards and such in the grave, or if it does, how easy it does to set that up. So overall, I mean, this deck has a lot of ways to set up its drop zone, just as you mentioned earlier during the advantage category. This deck is very easy to do that. So, I mean, overall, I'll let you take off on this point too. How consistent do you feel with this deck?
I will admit that there are times where it can be a hit or miss scenario. It really depends on how well you can get the guarding out of the way, because this is the one deck where really what you guard with matters the most, because after you guard, where does it go? Into the drop zone. So you really have to depend on, when exactly you want to guard and what to guard with. So things like Gustion, Ruin Shade, well, especially Ruin Shade, but that's another category right there. So when you really guard, things go to the drop zone. So that already sets up right there. So in the early game, I actually started guarding with the Sea Strolling Banshee. That way it's already in the drop zone and get ready to do my advantage column I want to do.
So whatever you guard with and put in the drop zone, that's also another way to set up. as
Exactly.
well. So you can benefit with that.
And I think that's where a lot of people really, forgot about, because usually people just throw away triggers at first and thinking that's okay. But for me, I actually start throwing away some of the earlier cards, which I know I'll be able to use later on in the game.
Exactly.
If we're talking more of an offensive strategy, then that's where Cocytus Reverse and Ruin Shade comes in. Ruin Shades are definitely the best card that Grand Blue can get.
MVP, man.
Exactly.
MVP.
When it attacks mill 2 plus 2. 11k sounds nice on paper, but it's really the milling part that matters, because that's really where it all comes down to, is how fast you can get your drop zone set up and ready to go. If you play 4 Ruin Shades and Night Kid or Guiding Zombie or things that actually help mill the drop zone, then you'll easily definitely get the get your drop zone set up and ready to go for those limit break advantage styles that you want to do.
Gotcha.
But that's all really, that's where it also falters, because of the fact that if you don't get Ruin Shade in time, or if you don't get all those shields down in time, then you really have to start sitting and start defending a little more. So that's where it was really a little hit or miss on. Overall, it's definitely good as far as getting consistency goes, but it does rely on his card. So I have to give it about maybe a 3 in order to actually get that down.
I think, like, well, there's always a lot of decks out there with powerful break rides, but one thing I always look at for decks that use a break ride, I always kind of look at how much it relies on the break ride. Now, unfortunately for Grand Blue, I mean, granted, if you don't get your break ride, you end up getting Cocytus Reverse first. I mean, granted, it's not the end of the world. There's still some great plays you can do with them,
right.
But definitely the deck really leans on Night Mist a lot to make a lot of his big combo plays, to make those big pushes and such. So
yeah.
I wouldn't say that necessarily this deck is necessarily break rival line, but it really can lead towards using the Night Mist to really increase his chances of winning.
Yeah.
And just like what Warlycan says, it's kind of like how Dark Irregulars are. Like sometimes you just don't draw the right cards to soul charge enough to fulfill certain conditions.
Exactly.
So if you're not able to, sometimes it may be a little bit slower. But in terms of consistency, I mean, the deck overall, I mean, it's very designed to set itself up. There can be times where
it'll fall.
It can fall
flat on its face.
But it doesn't require that much to set up. So overall, with consistency, I'm actually going to give this deck a 4 out of 5.
That's not bad.
I think that's a good a fair rating. So yeah, there you have it, guys. So definitely a big thumbs up for Warlycan36 finally making a comeback, which I kind of predicted myself, because I mean,
shut up over there.
You're not leaving your Grand. You're gonna.
Well, I'm always gonna have Grand Blue. It's just a matter of when I was gonna do videos again. By the way, check out my channel. June 3rd is when I'm gonna start doing videos again. So definitely check that out. Definitely subscribe to me. Link. It's gonna be down there.
If you unsubscribe from him, subscribe back.
Exactly. Please resubscribe to me, basically.
It's cut off.
Okay.
And I know that some of you guys are going to probably ask, but he is going to have the deck profile on his channel. I'm going to let him put it on his channel since he is the Grand Blue guy. So I will not have a Grand Blue deck profile on my channel. So Warlycan will be taking care of that for me. Yeah, I got too many other decks to do.
If anything, he'll do put a link in the deck profile on Night Mist. So if you want to see the deck profile and it's after June 3rd, click on Night Mist. I'll have it set up by then.
And if it's not June 3rd yet, then well, wait.
Then you have to wait.
All right, guys. Well, other than that, thank you guys so much for watching again. Thank you, Warlycan, for your nice and little input as well for your Grand Blue. And don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. Well, on that, guys. Later.
Pirates, motherfucker.
Okay, I was waiting for you.